Hi, I'm Dave Henning with the Fresh Start Podcast, fresh ideas for business and personal growth. And today it is my pleasure to have my guest, William Branum from the sunshiny state there, Hawaii. Thank you for being with me today, William. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on here. I'm pretty excited to be here today.
You are the founder and CEO of the Naked Warrior Recovery CBD company focused on recovery for veterans and first responders. You're a retired Navy SEAL, 26 years of service. Wow, thank you so much. A SEAL team's sniper instructor, did some undersea operations and all kinds of stuff that is unclassified or classified. I don't know.
Classified, yeah. I mean, there's some unclassified stuff in there, like, yeah.
Well,
there's some other stuff that I think I forgot, or maybe it never happened. I'm not sure. It's hard to recall.
Yeah, right. Well, 26 years is kind of a long time, William.
I was thinking about it one day and I was like, wow, that's a quarter century that I did that.
Yeah.
Which made me feel old all of a sudden. And I know that I'm not old because I think I'm still 25, my own self, even though I spent 26 years in the military.
Exactly. What's that song with Clint Eastwood? Don't Let the Old Man In. That song by some country star. So he's still rocking and rolling out there out in Carmel, California. So tell me a little about, William, a little bit about your life as a Navy SEAL. What was that like? I mean, obviously, everybody hears Navy SEALs and there's movies and all that kind of stuff.
Right. And so I grew up in Meridian, Mississippi. It's a little town in Mississippi. There's a Naval Air Station there. My dad was in the Navy. I swore I would never, ever join the Navy. And I was also heavily involved in the Boy Scouts. I was an Eagle Scout, and I went to the National Jamboree one year between my 11th and 12th grade of high school. And I always knew that I wanted to be some sort of a commando of sorts. I grew up watching Rambo. I watched John Wayne in the movie Green Beret. I watched Chuck Norris in the movie Delta Force. So these were kind of my role models. I also watched a lot of Kung Fu theater. So I also wanted to be a ninja when I grew up, and I'm still working on the whole ninja thing. But I always knew that I wanted to be in the military, but not part of the big military, like the big green machine. I wanted to be part of something special, sneak around in small groups, shoot guns, blow stuff up, hide out, do reconnaissance, maybe be a sniper. I was thinking like Marine recon sniper. And those were sort of the thoughts that I had. And I shared those with, as many people as I could, just because what else am I going to do? I'm from Meridian. There's not a lot else going on down there. And so there was a kid in the other Boy Scout troop that we paired up with to go to the National Jamboree. And he talked about becoming a Navy SEAL. And I was like, what's that? He's like, they're like the best, the most elite military force in the world. They jump out of airplanes. They run around in the woods. They scuba dive. They shoot guns, blow stuff up, all this stuff. And I'm like, haven't I heard of them? He's like, well, they're part of the Navy. They're super secret. They do all this stuff. And I was like, check. And he said, I also want to be a F-14 Tomcat pilot, because this was back Gulf War I, and we won that war through, extreme air power. And so I was like, yeah, that's what I want to be. But do I have to join the Navy? Like, I was like absolute anti-Navy because, Meridian was a little Naval Air Station base town, and the sailors that went there for their training after boot camp before they went off to do whatever it is that they did in the Navy, they would walk around the malls and when they were on liberty and act like a bunch of idiots. And I was like, no way. They have the ugliest uniforms. Marines, they were fighting dragons with swords and shields in the commercials when I was growing up. I was like, they have good looking uniforms. I'm like, but what? No way I'm joining the Navy. But anyway, the Navy recruiter called me one day right before I started my 12th grade of high school and said, hey, have you ever thought about joining the Navy? I was like, of course. I want to be a Navy SEAL, but I don't really want to join the Navy. And he's like, well, you got to join the Navy. Why don't you come on down here and let's talk about it? So I went down there. I watched a super cheesy video, the recruiting video, which I thought was the most high-speed thing on the planet. And I'm like, okay, where do I sign? And then I also want to fly airplanes. They're like, hold on, let's just get you in the Navy first, and then we'll go from there. So I joined the Navy really before I graduated high school in what's called the delayed entry program. And I wanted to be a gunner's mate because my dad believed in electronics back then. And this was before we had the internet and we had movies about Navy SEALs and books and all this other stuff. There was very little known about they were actually secret back once upon a time. And there were just a couple of books from like Vietnam that were out. And I think the book Rogue Warrior may have been out as well, Richard Marcinko. And so there wasn't a lot out there, but eventually I graduated high school. I joined the Navy. I went to boot camp. I took the SEAL screening test, my first, the first opportunity I got, and I failed it. And I was like, oh, what do I do from here? They're like, don't worry about it. You can take it later when you go to your other school after boot camp. I'm like, okay, check. Now, this was up in north of Chicago. And so I went to boot camp in the summer, but this other school was 6 months of winter. Winter north of Chicago is not that much fun. Everything ices over. It's super cold outside. It's dark most of the time. And I had an opportunity to go take the SEAL screening test, and I didn't while I was there because I had an opportunity to take another school. And then after that school, I would go on and take the screening test and then go to BUD/S. But I didn't. I took the school. I went to take the test. And because I took that school, I had 24 months of obligated service on a ship in Yokosuka, Japan. So I didn't actually get to go to SEAL training right away. And I spent 2 years on that ship, eventually passing the SEAL screening test, doing all the work that I needed to do. And the guy that tells me where I'm going to go next, I called him up and I said, hey, I'm dropping a package to go to BUD/S. He's like, that's great, but I'm not going to release you because you're too critical to the Navy. So you're not going to become a Navy SEAL. I don't care what your dreams, hopes, and aspirations are. And so I continued to lobby and, talk to everyone that I could. Hey, I joined the Navy to be a SEAL. I would love to go to BUD/S. And they're like, I think you should go, but your detailer has to release you. So one day, the most senior guy in the Navy shows up to my ship. He was the chief of naval operations. And just to kind of give you an idea of who the chief of naval operations is, he's the most senior guy in the Navy. The only people that are more senior to him is the Secretary of Defense and the President of the United States. So he is the top dog. And he came to my little ship in Yokosuka, Japan and said, hey, does anyone have any questions? And I was like, yeah, right here. I joined the Navy to be a SEAL. I think I deserve a chance to go. My detailer won't let me go. And I think I deserve a chance. What do you think? He turns to my commanding officer, and my commanding officer says, he's a good guy. He was, he was a sailor of the quarter, which is like employee of the month or something in the Navy. And he's like, okay, check. You'll be in the first class after your PRD. 6 weeks later, planned rotational date. 6 weeks later, I'm on an airplane off to California. And so that's how I got to SEAL training. So my experience just to get to become a Navy SEAL was much longer than I anticipated. And then it took me, 13 short months to get through 6 months of SEAL training. So SEAL training is 6 months, and it took me a short 13 months to get there.
That sounds like my college experience. I went to 3 different colleges. The one finally let me graduate. So
just keep going. Just keep trying.
So yeah, so this is kind of a quick aside based on what you were talking about, kung fu and stuff. I'm going to graduate school in Kansas City. Actually, it's a seminary, a religious school, and I thought, I need some organized exercise. So I joined this dojo, and unbeknownst to me, my instructor Steve Mackey was a top 10 kickboxer way back when, in China, and the owner of the dojo was this badass police officer out of St. Louis named Jim Harrison. And Jim Harrison was friends with Chuck Norris. And Jim was actually entered the Hall of Fame with Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee, who were buddies of his. So,
impressive.
Anyway, all that to say, I could never kick high enough in sparring. I was always kicking my instructor in the hip. So I love the martial arts stuff as well. Thank you for clarifying your interesting roundabout way of getting to the Navy SEALs, but that obviously had a impact on your life. And first of all, did you get past the ugly uniforms?
You know what? I did. I mean, I just had to suck it up and just, it is what it is. But for sure, they're better today than they used to be. But, it was like bell bottoms and dungarees, and you really looked like you were fresh out of prison. And you had this, the Dixie Cup round white cap. And that is quite possibly the ugliest attribute to the Navy's uniform, but it's tradition, and so that's how they roll.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So now you are using your Navy SEAL mindset for this program that you have. Let's talk about that. The Naked Warrior. It's not really real naked.
So the Naked Warrior. So first of all, there's a history behind what the Naked Warrior is. If you've ever seen the movie Saving Private Ryan, that first scene of going into Normandy, where it's just like chaos and anarchy and just like utter combat. Well, before that ever happened, the Navy went out and found a bunch of volunteers that could swim and knew about demo. And so these guys kind of got together. They took the little rubber boats from the big Navy ships into the beaches. They did reconnaissances of the beach, where fighting positions were. They're also taking fire while they're like laying on the beach in the surf zone, taking notes of like where, good approaches for attack are, what obstacles are there. They're taking notes. They're writing it down on a piece of slate. And then they slide back into the water and they get in a line, and they're about 25 yards apiece, and they measure the depth of the water with a rock on a piece of string with knots every 6 feet, because 6 feet is a fathom. And they measure the depth of the water, mark that on their slate. Then they dive down and they look for obstacles underwater. If they find an obstacle, they swim about 25 yards, come up, mark it, get on line, and they measure 3 to 5,000 yards of beach a night. And then, also going back in and doing more surveys, going back to the ship, building the plan. They're building the plan that is used for the Allied forces to, invade Normandy. And so hours before that assault, before that Saving Private Ryan assault, they go back in, they put demo charges on everything, every obstacle on the beach. They figure out what the lanes of assault should be. And they also put demo charges on any obstacles that they found in the water. And as the assault force is coming, they blow the charges. And then, chaos. They're also, they're taking fire the whole time they're doing this. So one of the most dangerous jobs during that whole assault prior to the actual crossing of the beach. And those guys were known as the Naked Warrior. And so after that assault, the Navy decommissioned them. But then, their island campaign happened in the Pacific with the Japanese. These Marines were going ashore to kind of take these little islands back over. They would hit a barrier reef, thinking they're in 3 feet of water, run off, and then drown in 60 feet of water on the other side. So the Navy recommissioned these teams to go in, do reconnaissance of the beaches, looking for obstacles in the water, clearing lanes of assault. And then those guys later became the underwater demolition team, which later became in 1962 U.S. Navy SEALs. So the Naked Warrior is a little bit of a head nod to today's is the predecessor of today's Navy SEAL. But what the Naked Warrior also is kind of for me, for Naked Warrior recovery, it's about taking your ego off and setting it to the side, because when I transitioned from the military to civilian life, I went from having a badass team with a badass mission, knowing what I'm going to do every day, to having no mission, no clue, no purpose, no nothing. And I also have some toxic relationships out there. I got some other baggage from my time in the military. Some people call it PTSD. I just call it baggage, because it's not specific to military or law enforcement or first responders. It's like everyone can have it. It doesn't, maybe you're a trader on Wall Street, you're a real estate agent, you're a soccer mom. It doesn't matter. We all have baggage that we carry around, and it just weighs us down all the time. And part of being the Naked Warrior is taking that baggage off, taking that ego off, setting it to the side, being a little bit vulnerable, being a little more authentic, and finding the healing and recovery that you need. But so I've coined the phrase "get naked." You can see it on my shirt. And really, get naked is a mindset. So first off, actually, let me even back up. So I was struggling badly with all the baggage that I have, bad negative self-talk. And a buddy of mine offered me a bottle of CBD. Actually, I was looking for it, and he was like, "You want CBD? I've got some." He gave it to me. And that maybe that night I slept a little bit better, and maybe I was a little less pissed off the next morning. But I didn't notice a lot at the time. But what I noticed after about 30 days, water boils at 212 degrees. I was probably living at 210 degrees. And, after about 30 days of taking CBD, I kind of went from like 210 to 205 to 200 to maybe 195, 190. And the fuse to that boiling point just got less. It got longer. So not less, it got longer, wrong L. And so I also had pains that, I've got a lot of pains. My body's beat up from 26 years of service. They were just not as bad. Like they just didn't hurt as much. It wasn't quite as sharp of a pain. And then I ran out of that CBD, and then, I started getting closer to that boiling point again. So I tried a different brand, and I had similar opportunity to know what those other letters are you're saying. And she's like, okay, check. And she told me a little bit more about it. So I'm like, but really I was trying to get her to hire me. Again, I had no mission, no purpose, I was like failing in a lot of areas of my life as a civilian, and, drinking myself to sleep every night. And CBD actually helped me to stop drinking as much. And I was like, how do I get in the industry? And she was like, well, why don't you just start your own CBD company? And I was like, I don't know how to do that. She was like, you are a Navy SEAL. Go figure it out. And I was like, okay, can I have my man card back, please? And put it. So she totally, called me out. And so I just went and figured it out. And so what I found is the CBD industry, for the most part, is actually pretty dirty, pretty corrupt. And there's not a lot of really good, high quality companies out there. So my quest was to really go out and find the highest quality suppliers. I mean, the FDA has done a ton of spot checks. And what they found is, more than 70% of companies either don't have CBD in them. They have high levels of outside the legal limit of THC in them. They have high levels of arsenic, mercury, lead, other heavy metals, pesticides, other solvents that they've used to kind of extract CBD. And it's just really people are like, oh, it's get rich quick. And so I was like, that's not cool. If you're putting something into your body that's a medicine, why do you want to put a bunch of poisons in your body at the same time? So what I did is I went out and I found the highest quality suppliers in the market. And I still even look today for even higher quality still. And my suppliers continue to raise the bar. So it's very hard to find anyone that's better than them. So I have the highest quality suppliers in the market. So the highest quality CBD in the market. So that's just a little story tangent about, the starting of Naked Warrior Recovery. But what I found is CBD was just a modality that helped, move the needle, make my fuse a little bit longer, but I still had to do the positive self-talk. I still had to fix my mindset. And so what I ended up doing is I thought about, what my mission is, what Naked Warrior Recovery's mission is, and how I can help as many people as possible. And a lot of that is just mindset. The thing that helped me is I had to fix my mindset. And so I came up with this slogan of Get Naked. And Get Naked is, again, it's about taking your ego off. It's about, being vulnerable and being your authentic self. But Naked also stands for something. It's an acronym because in the military, we love acronyms. And Naked is an easy one to never forget. So Naked, the N stands for never quit. And I don't mean never quit smoking or drinking or doing drugs or having, being in toxic relationships. I mean, never quit on yourself, never quit trying to improve the quality of your life. If you start a project, if you start a purpose, take that project or purpose or thing all the way to the end. Now, it doesn't mean that it's a straight line. You're going to have to pivot and you're going to have to overcome obstacles and things like that. But just keep going and never quit. Rome wasn't created in a day, but it was created every single day. It didn't fall in a day either. It fell every day after when people started becoming mediocre. So, how I kind of apply this to SEAL training is we'll just use Hell Week as an example. Hell Week is a week. It's 5.5 days of no sleep. You don't sleep at all. Actually, we slept about 2.5 hours, which was really the worst part of the whole thing, waking us up from that and having us get in the ocean. But you're wet and miserable the entire time. You lose about 70% of your class that's left. Once you get to Hell Week, you still lose another 70%. So it's a really miserable experience, and you have no breaks really at all, except eating. They feed you 4 times a day because you're burning a tremendous amount of calories. And so what a lot of guys did is I don't care how miserable it is. All I got to do is make it to the next meal. You just take that punishment, whatever it is, do the work, do all that effort right then. It's going to end and you're going to go eat. So if you take, no matter how unsurmountable a challenge is or a project or whatever it is, or how long it takes, if you chop it up into bite-sized pieces and just make it to the next meal and never quit, you will have success. The A is accept failure. Failure is the foundation of success. You know, if you think about the most successful people in the world, just say, let's take Michael Jordan, for example, the best basketball player of all time. He's missed more than he's missed more than 9,000 shots in his career. He's lost more than 350 games. He's missed more than 27, I think. I forgot the numbers exactly. Game-winning shots. You know, every time he missed a shot, even if he won the game, you know what he would do? He would go back to the gym or to the court that evening, and he would practice that shot over and over until he never missed it again. If you take, let's look at Steve Jobs. We talked about Steve Jobs earlier, and Elon Musk. Both of those guys were fired as CEOs of companies that they started. That was a failure. We'll call that a failure. They grew from it. They built something else. They came back, and now look at the massive successes that they had from their failure. Thomas Edison, he learned 10,000 different ways to not create the incandescent light bulb before he even had the light bulb. So failure is the foundation of success. Failure is really required for success. So accept failure, continue on, and keep going. The K is kill mediocrity. We live in a world of instant gratification. You can hit I can't do it here in Hawaii, but you know, you can basically hit a button on your phone and Amazon will have ice cream to you in like 30 minutes or less. You know, if they try to sip it to Hawaii, it'll be about a week and a half before they get here, or maybe even to where you're located, even longer. But we've got Instagram and YouTube, and you can just find whatever you want. And it's easy for us to make excuses to not do stuff to make us better. It's easy for us to make excuses to not work out, to not finish that project, to not brush your teeth, to not make your bed. It doesn't matter what it is. We find that excuses are really easy to come by, and the more you do it, the easier it is. And every time you make an excuse and become a little more mediocre, that's a quit. And so if you want to kill mediocrity in your life, you need to find some way to be competitive. You talked a little bit earlier about, you're a workaholic and you just you want to stay up and you want to get it done. Not everyone is like that. Sometimes they need to have these small wins. In POW school, in SEER school, where I was a prisoner of war, and they taught us how to these small tricks to kind of get through and kind of keep your mind right, is you need to have these micro wins. You need to have these small wins. So like if the bad guys, the prison wardens are like, don't look to the left. Every opportunity I got, I'm looking to the left. And oh, guess what? I'm going to look to the right too. So every time I could do the opposite of what they told me to do or said I couldn't do that, I won. I won in my mind. I won in my heart. So I killed that mediocrity. I didn't let, they want to break you down and make you mediocre. You don't want to be mediocre. You want to be awesome. And don't let them control you. The E is expose your fears. I think fear is the thing that wrecks and controls more people's lives than not. We talked about PTSD. We talked about baggage. We talked about, I still have to deal with some things, some baggage that I have from different relationships or whatever. And, sometimes I'm like, I don't want someone to think negative about me because of whatever, what someone else might be saying. Who cares what someone else says? I know me and I know my value and I know what I bring to the table. Who cares what they say? But we let that fear kind of fester in the back of our mind, and it's back there. And I equate fear to a vampire, because vampires, they live in the darkness and they suck the life out of you. Fear, it lives in that dark place in the back of your mind that you don't want to look or don't want to go explore, and it sucks the life out of you. So if you're able to reach back there and pull that fear out and expose it to the light, expose it to more people. I have a business coach who's made billions of dollars in different companies. And, he says fear does not exist on paper. And when he gets like overwhelmed by all these crazy thoughts, what he'll do is he'll pull up, maybe he's driving. He'll pull over to a Starbucks. He'll go order a coffee, and he'll pull out a pen and a piece of paper, pen or pencil, not type it out, pen or pencil and a piece of paper. And he'll write down the things that are bugging him. And once he writes them down, he's like, that's really what was bothering me. That's what was giving me all this stress and this anxiety and all this complete nonsense and controlling creating all this fear in my life. It's like, really? So that's another trick that you can use. You can take those things that are bugging you, those things that are back there that you don't really want to expose. You don't want people to know about. Who cares? Write it down on a piece of paper, share it with someone, read it out loud to yourself. Don't share it with anyone. Just expose it. Like get it out of the darkness. And then once you control that fear will no longer control you. Go ahead.
There's an acronym for fear: false evidence appearing real. FEAR, false evidence appearing real. Fear. So keep going because this is fantastic.
I'm almost, yeah, I got it. Yeah, yeah. I had to like write that down real quick.
You're on fire, brother. You're on fire. Give it to me.
And I actually gave this to a friend of mine who's struggling a little bit. And I was like, hey, check out my, this little website, 5 SEAL Secrets, and it'll break it down for you as well. So the D, the E is expose your fears. The D is do the work, because none of this is going to happen if you don't do anything about it. You can't never quit because you never started. You can't accept failure because you didn't fail because you never started. You can't kill mediocrity because you're being mediocre. You're making excuses. You can't expose your fears because you're just going to hide in the corner and hide behind them and let them control you. You have to do the work. So the key to all of it is do the work. Never quit, accept failure, kill mediocrity, expose your fears, and do the work. And if your listeners want to get a copy, so I created a copy really quickly, and it's if you go to the website, the number 5sealsecrets.com, 5sealsecrets.com, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 naked. That's sort of the secret there. And you can read about, kind of what I wrote about each one of those, and apply it to any part of your life. I would recommend not applying all of it to every part of your life. I'd recommend picking one thing in your life and apply that get naked mentality to it. And as you really get really good at that one aspect, expand it to another part and another part. And then, pretty soon you'll have the Navy SEAL mindset. You'll be able to think like a Navy SEAL by never quitting, accepting failure, killing mediocrity, exposing your fears, and doing the work. But again, it all requires work.
Absolutely. Wow. This has been fun, and time flies when you're having fun. That's for sure. But I knew that this was going to be a great interview for sure. I had this premonition, man, and I knew because I saw you with that beautiful beard you have, and I'm having a struggle growing a beard during the pandemic. And anyway, all that to say, I'm messing with you right now, but very good stuff. You are so right. You gotta let go of that ego. That's for sure. And it'll trip you up every time, especially if you believe, the mailman gave you this advice. My broke cousin Joey told me that I should do this. And
right. Exactly. Yeah. No one else really knows you.
Yeah. So how can I help you, William? How can I help you today? Well, let's talk about how can they get access to the CBD website, the information. You gave us the one website for the Get Naked acronym.
So for the CBD website, again, it's what I believe, because all of my products are third-party tested multiple times. Some companies that do third-party testing only test once. We test multiple times. We test when the oil is extracted, and we test the final product. We have everything from gummies to oil tinctures that you put under your tongue to soft gels. My favorite soft gel, really my favorite product right now, is our sleep formula. It has 3 milligrams of melatonin, 3 milligrams of CBN, which is really the sedative molecule inside the hemp plant, and then 25 milligrams of broad spectrum CBD oil. And I tell you, kind of like what you were talking about earlier, you have a hard time like going to sleep because you just like to work. Let me tell you, I take 2 of those 25 milligram sleep soft gels. I cannot stay up. Like, I'm one of those people, I get tired. I can, plow right through that tired mode and then just like keep going, and I get my second wind. I cannot do it when I take 2 of those. So my website for the CBD is nw-recovery.com, or you can write in all one word, nakedwarriorrecovery.com. I changed it to NW-recovery because some people might not want to write naked in their search engine. So that was my original website. Right. And then I was like, let's change that just because who knows, whatever. So nw-recovery.com. And then also 5sealsecrets.com is the kind of SEAL mindset. But if you go to nw-recovery.com, you can get to the 5 SEAL Secrets website as well.
Yeah, I've been using CBD for quite a long time. I actually am looking for a new source of that. We actually were giving it to our little
guy.
I know a guy. Yeah, I got an offer you can't refuse. So we actually got some for our dogs because
I have pet treats as well.
Our dogs were getting old. Our 2 Westies, and they were getting old, and they needed some help for typical things and pains and aches and pains that dogs have. So Great stuff to know. Yeah, I know what THC is too, by the way. I was at the original Woodstock concert.
All of my products are THC free. They're a broad spectrum instead of a full spectrum.
Right.
I have 2 products that are full spectrum only because I had a lot of requests for it. So here, have it. But, for those who are concerned about, drug testing or anything like that, you don't get high from those products that have that very small amount of THC. And actually CBD is the antithesis of THC. So, and I've never really used THC, but I've heard if you have a really bad trip on THC and you have a really bad high and you start kind of freaking out, you can take a bunch of CBD and it'll bring you back down because of the way CBD interacts with those endocannabinoid receptors, those CB1 receptors. So THC binds to those receptors. And what CBD will do is we'll go in and it'll release that molecule from binding to those neuroreceptors and bring you back down off that high or make it just a little more mellow, make you trip out less. Now that's anecdotal. I've never tried it. Like I said, I've never really done THC because I've been in the military my entire adult life. And I also have do some other contract work. So I for the military or the government. So I still get drug tested. I take a lot of CBD and I can't really mess around with that side of it. So until they make it federally legal, I'm still off.
Yeah. Well, the last time I smoked weed was the last Sunday in January 1972 when I made this promise to God that I wouldn't do that anymore. I even went to a Jimmy Buffett concert and nobody was smoking weed, man, except this one guy. Crazy. This one guy in front of us says, "Well, I got glaucoma, man," and everybody at the Jimmy Buffett concert told him to put it out. That was just what is going on here,
right? What happened? Nancy Reagan's war on drugs. Just say no.
I'm so grateful to have you with me today, William Branum from Hawaii. Great to have you here. Thank you so much for being. Oh, I forgot my last question that I ask everybody because this is what I do.
I always get stumped by whatever these questions are. These final questions.
Oh yeah, no, you won't. In fact, I was given a list of crazy questions. If you run out of questions, I can always ask you these questions. But I'm going to ask you my question, which I came up with. What was your very first job ever when you were a kid or a teenager?
My first job ever was I worked I cut grass, but my first real job was working at the Boy Scout camp on the rifle range, and actually I learned how to shoot really well there. And then that followed on to becoming a lifeguard. And that's kind of what turned me into, going down the path of becoming a Navy SEAL. Awesome. Very cool. Thank you, William, for being with me. It's been a real treat. Yes, if I could say tweet, not tweet. There's a lot of birds singing around here in Costa Rica. I'm just saying. I think I'm messing up my verbs here. I like it. Thanks, William, for being with me. I appreciate it. I'm Dave Henning, and this is the Fresh Start Podcast. Fresh ideas for business and personal growth. Be sure to check out William's website and go ahead and get your order in for some CBD. It's going to help you out. So thanks a lot, William. Appreciate it. Yes, sir. Thank you.